Let's see. Wyoming, Australia, Utah. This is awesome. This is amazing. It's going up by the minute. Ben, it says 292 people watching. Yeah, apparently there's 2 different links or something. So anyways, so happy to have everyone with us. Getting used to which cameras I'm looking at here. My name's Luke Hilton, here with the Israel guys. We got Britt Waller here in Texas, live from Texas. And we have Joshua Waller and Justin Hilton live from Israel. So
if y'all can see us.
So happy to have everyone with us. I know people are joining every second. So we're going to keep getting people on. We are going to tell you the story of what happened with the cancellation of the Israel summit. It's a crazy, incredible story. Our entire team has not slept for about 4 days. We look a little tired. We have been through the ringer. We've been running a marathon here in Texas and in Israel because it's 3 a.m. Josh, what is it, 3 a.m. in Israel right now?
3 a.m. in Israel. Hey, but we're fired up and ready to wake up the world about what's happening in America. You know, we've been fighting this war on jihad in Israel for quite some time now, but we're ready to wake up the Americans on what's happening there. We've got some really unreal things, but hey, guys, the good news is that Americans are waking up to what the reality that we're facing in America right now.
Yep, that's right. The ironic thing is that I'm in Texas with no cowboy hat, and Joshua is in Israel with a cowboy hat. So I don't know what's going on there. I need somebody to sponsor an authentic Texas cowboy hat for me. So I'm going to, see if I can get that worked out. So if anyone wants to stay up to date with what's going on, with what's happening with the Israel Summit, I encourage you to go to theisraelguys.com, sign up for our email list. There'll be a banner there about the cancellation of the Israel Summit. We are working around the clock to get a new venue confirmed and get new dates put on the calendar very, very soon. And instead of 1,000 people, we're looking for 5,000 or 10,000 people to come and join us in Texas. So Make sure to go to theisraelguys.com if you want to support our work as well. Biggest thing is get your name on our email list so that you can stay up to date with what's happening. So, Britt, we have 500 people, over 500 people on right now.
Awesome.
We might have to recap as we go along as people join. But how about as the event coordinator for the Israel Summit, how about you give us a boots on the ground, tell us the story of what happened?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you guys for jumping on all over the world. It looks like we got a lot of different people on. Thank you guys so much for getting on. I think the summit was not able to happen right now, which it was kind of a hard day because today would have been the starting of when everybody would have been showing up, all the speakers, and everyone would have been arriving here in Texas for this event. But here we are. Sadly, the state of things in America is pretty tough right now. The last several days, we've been going to different venues, checking out different places, seeing who will be willing to stand up to this jihadist pressure that we're seeing right now in America. So the story, what happened? We were scheduled to be in Arlington. A lot of you guys were signed up for the event. We were scheduled to be there, had a beautiful venue. About 2 weeks before today, 2 weeks ago, we were contacted by local security forces saying, hey, we just got wind, we just caught stuff on social media that your event, for one, there's going to be a lot of protesters, but also is being targeted in other ways as well. And so they said, due to that, I'll say, like, our team isn't that's not a new thing, sadly, for Israel. A lot of things Israel are targeted. A lot of things Israel, there's pushback. But in this case, they came in and they said, hey, because of location, because of this facility, we're going to have to bring in basically a presidential level security team in order to make this event safe. We were 100% on board with that, but the cost of that security budget was going to be on us, over $500,000, which was more than the budget for the entire event. So our response to that was like, whoa, to host an event in the United States today, you have to have a security budget of over $500,000 just to keep what happened in DC with the shooting attack, what happened in Boulder, Colorado, to keep that from happening. That's a really sad state of affairs in America. So we started reaching out, Governor Abbott's office. We got a huge response from a lot of different people saying, hey, we want to help you guys. It's late notice. We're like less than 2 weeks out. How can we help? We're working with different teams. It soon became very apparent that even with a lot of people helping, we were not going to be able to get everything we needed. before the event start date of today. So we had been talking to different people, different facilities. We switched to a different facility outside of Dallas, just outside. They're pro-Israel. But then even there at that facility, they received such a level of pushback and direct targets, terror targets, that they contacted us just a few days ago and said, hey, with this level of pushback and security threat, we don't feel it's safe to host your event here at our facility. So even the pro-Israel people in America, the ones that are wanting to stand up, even for them, the pushback is so hard that it's difficult to stand. So that's where we're at right now. We are 100% committed, and I know a lot of you guys have had questions of like, what happened? Why did this get canceled? Why is this postponed? We're 100% committed. A lot of us grew up in Israel, and we know very well that these enemies, these jihadists, they're only empowered when they see the other side back down. We're very aware of that. And so our response is going to be bigger. It's going to be a better event. It's going to be having more influencers attending, more people, like Luke said, instead of around 1,000 people. We've already gotten a huge response from Texans saying, this is ridiculous. This is not happening in Texas. So thank God that's the plan. We're going to be releasing details on that very soon, hopefully. But I just want to give a shout out to all of you guys for your response, for coming along and saying, hey, we're with you guys. No matter where you end up, we're going to be there. If it's driving across America, we're going to make it to this summit because this obviously is under attack in America today.
Yeah, Brett, one thing I want to add, and that is, we got a lot of feedback from people blaming law enforcement or, security agencies, and also blaming the venues. And I want to make something clear. This is not about the venues canceling on us or about law enforcement doing their job, because we had amazing support from both communities. The law enforcement agencies at the state level, the federal level, the intelligence communities were amazing. They did everything they could to help us. And also the venues. Both venues really tried to make it work. They did everything in their power to pull this event off. One of the venues even said they want to host this summit at some point in the future. But what this really comes down to is the enemy here is jihadists who are in America, who are threatening pro-Israel events. And honestly, the big question that we're now asking is it safe for Jews and Christians to gather publicly in support of Israel in America today? And that's a question that I'm really starting to wonder might possibly be, the answer is no. Because in Texas, of all places, if you're Jewish, if you're Christian and you support Israel and you can't gather publicly in Texas, of all places, then that's a very scary state for America today. And I think it's a wake-up call and a warning. So before I get on too much of a rant, I want to go over to Joshua Waller live from Israel and Justin Hilton. Josh, what was your reaction? You were hours from jumping on a flight to come over to Dallas, Texas. What was your initial reaction to this?
Yeah, thanks, Luke. My first reaction was, wait a second. Am I hearing correctly that the American officials, because we were talking to the top line of officials here, when we got this response that we needed to pay this exorbitant amount of security, my first reaction was, wait a second, are you expecting for individuals and organizations to pay the bill, foot the bill, to fight the war on terror? And is this the expectation now? Just yesterday, we saw that the FBI and Homeland Security released a statement saying that the threat level was upped for Jews in America. Like, that's an FBI Homeland Security thing that just dropped yesterday. Jews are now threatened in America. What we found is that it's not only Jews, it's also full-blown, farming American Christians that happen to love Jewish people and their country are also being threatened and also are a part of that. If you are supporting the Jews at your local synagogue, if you have an Israeli flag in your yard, you're a part of that threat level that has just been recognized now by the FBI and Homeland Security on a public statement that just dropped yesterday in the news. So when I first felt that, I said, okay, this is off balance. Wait a second. The reason why this is off, because the officials aren't taking note of what's happening, and now we're being hit with this on the side. Now, as I've spoken with and our team, guys, we've had 4 days on this. I'm telling you, we've spoken with congressmen and senators. We spoke with the ambassador to Israel. You'll hear from him shortly here. I will tell you very clearly and unabashedly that nobody's standing by. The elected leaders in America are very well aware of what's going on. And just like us, we were a bit sidelined. We were taken off guard that we'd face this in Texas. Every single elected leader that we've spoken with, even Democrats, guys, we've talked to, the other side of the aisle. We're saying they're appalled by this. They're like, what? That happened to you? They were not supportive of this, guys. They were saying this is not right. This is not happening. Not in my state, Texas. This is not going to be what's going on. So I want to encourage all of you guys. We kind of fell into this little mishap here of a double whammy cancellation with 2 events back to back. But I'm telling you that there's some high level things happening right now that you're going to hear about even from the ambassador here in a moment from Israel to the United States that are very clear that the Trump administration, as all of you know, is not dealing with these things casually. They're well aware of what's happening on the college campuses, and what's happening on the college campuses is now being elevated to the public sphere, and their support of Israel is being targeted. Guys, and just to be clear, I know we've been talking about this incessantly on our team, but this is not only an attack on Israel, it's an attack on free speech. It's an attack on the very foundations of which America was founded. Let's be clear about that. Justin, I don't know if you got more to add to that.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I was honestly just kind of in shock. Like, is this the America that we grew up in, And not be like dramatic, but it felt eerily similar to what happened in Germany, before the Holocaust, before the rise of Nazi Germany. And I was like, we can't let this happen. I don't know, for me personally, I was pretty fired up. I was ready to go knock on doors in America, wake people up. But it's not the time for silence. It's the time to stand boldly, because I think if these jihadists see that there are millions of Americans who stand with Israel, who don't back down, they don't take those flags out of the yards, they continue to support Israel, they continue to do everything. I think that's a massive show to these jihadists, just to see millions of Americans standing up and not backing down at all. And that's what we're doing. We're not backing down. We're not scared. We're not afraid.
You know what I would say to that is, all it takes is for evil to prevail, is for good men to do nothing. That's right. And that's what we're facing right now in America, is the vast majority support Israel, support freedom, support the foundations of which America was founded, these Judeo-Christian values. And we need to stand up and make a stand on the very foundations of which we were founded, and make sure that we're not just pushed over. And again, if we sit back and think this is somebody else's fight, hey, it's just a matter of time till it comes and hits us square in the face. So it's time for us to wake up, take the reality that faces us in America, the threat on freedom, the freedom of speech, the freedom to live out our faith and our beliefs freely. That's at stake right now by these jihadi American groups that are rising up, that are threatening the very foundations of which we really hold dear in America, the freedoms that we hold dear. This is being challenged, but guys, again, I'm telling you that we are at war with this, and as our team, we're no pushovers, and this is not happening. Our team would have never backed down in a million years. Of course, we got pushed into some areas here where we had no control over. But we're finding a venue, and you guys are going to hear about this very soon. We're going to be sending this out, and there's going to be, like the guy said, thousands of people at this instead of just a few hundred.
That's right, Josh. Thank you for that word. Yeah, I think people are asking me for my reaction, right? Over the last 4 days, talked to a lot of people, talked to a lot of news networks, a lot of news interviews. We're going to tee that clip up from the team here in a minute. But before we get to that, my emotion has been equally like discouraged and equally excited, because on the one hand, super discouraging to see this happening in America today, and to really realize America feels like they're on the brink of the same situation as Germany in 1939. And I know that's a wild, radical thing to say, but that's honestly what it feels like. Because if we cannot gather publicly in Texas, of all places, in support of Israel and the Jewish people, then where is America really? And we're in a very dangerous place is what the response is. But at the same time, I'm equally excited because I have talked to so many people who are absolutely livid, people who are angry, people who are rising up, people who are ready to stand with God's kingdom, to stand with the land of Israel, to stand with the Jewish people, pastors, leaders, rabbis, politicians, organizations, TV networks, people all over the world. And that excites me because maybe God's purpose for the Israel Summit being canceled, moving venues multiple times, is to have an even bigger event. I'll tell you right now, there's almost 1,300 people watching online from all over the world. We're talking Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Jordan, countries all over the world, almost every state in the United States. That encourages me. That gets me excited. So speaking of the news media, myself, Joshua Waller, have been interviewing 24/7, pretty much nonstop. Today, we had a clip in Fox News, also on the Dr. Phil network. Yesterday, we were on the World Prayer Network on Laura Loomer. We've been in CBN multiple times. TBN will be airing tomorrow. Eric Stakelbeck, the New York Post, the Blaze. And that's just a sampling of where this has been seen in the news. And I think we have are we all teed up for that, Ben? We have a news montage of all of the interviews that have been happening last couple of days. Let's roll that clip right now.
With the whole Israel Summit cancellation thing, it's been making massive headlines all across American media and all over social media.
In other news, one of the largest pro-Israel events in the U.S. has been postponed indefinitely because of growing terror threats.
There was an event that David Friedman, the former Trump ambassador to Israel, was supposed to speak at over the course of the next few days. It was supposed to take place, apparently, in Texas. And American jihadists forced a shutdown of the event. We should probably stop importing those sorts of folks into the United States. That is the point that President Trump has quite correctly made.
One of the largest pro-Israel gatherings planned for 2025 has been indefinitely postponed after escalating terror threats from American jihadists left organizers without a viable venue just days before the event.
It appears that the pro-Hamas forces got their claws in.
The security levels became so high, the risk assessment and the analysis that was done as to the risk to the event was so high that there was a security level mandated that was impossible to work with.
They just had to shut down the event. They had to cancel it last minute because of threats from radical Islamic jihadists. That's the reality.
There is a group called the Israel Guys, and they are pro-Israel activists, and they decided to hold a major event that they wanted to have in Texas. It's been organized for some time now. They sold over 1,000 tickets for people to attend, and the summit was supposed to start tomorrow. The police and FBI told the organizers of the Israel Summit that they would need to spend an additional $600,000 for an advanced security protocol, and even then they wouldn't be able to guarantee the safety of all of the attendees.
Major Christian conference scheduled to take place later this week in downtown Dallas was just canceled. And if you're a sane person, you might be thinking to yourself, why the heck would a Christian conference in the heart of Texas have to be canceled?
Trump 45's U.S. Ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, just announced the Israel Summit in Dallas this weekend for Jewish and Christian supporters of Israel had to be canceled because of death threats from violent jihadis.
Anywhere in the world, super happy to have you with us. I'm Luke Hilton here at the Israel Guys, joining you from Dallas, Texas. Also here with Britt Waller, and we have Joshua Waller and Justin Hilton joining us live from Israel. 1,500 people watching live from all over the world. If you're just joining us, drop a comment in the chat as to where you're joining from. Super excited to have you with us. Obviously, we're talking about the cancellation of the Israel summit, shut down by jihadist thugs. There's no other way to put it. Jihadists who want to see Israel destroyed, who want to see the Jewish people suppressed. And if you're a Bible-believing Christian or freedom-loving American, they also want to see you put down and silenced in America today. So this is about freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech. It's about standing up for what you believe in. So we have a special guest joining us in just a second, but while the team is working on getting him on, Britt, I think you had something else to share.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out kind of the irony of where we're at right now. This is an Israel summit, a conference on Israel that was going to take place starting today, that we had about 700 people coming in for the live audience. We had bigger group of people on the live stream. But just to point out the irony of this, and this, when you kind of take a step back, think about the Jewish people throughout history, all throughout the centuries of persecution and being kicked out of the land of Israel, going to the four corners of the earth, coming back, the miracle of that, the land being restored, the people coming back, the language being restored, miracle after miracle of things happening in the restoration and rebirth of the nation of Israel. And then, even now, you have all over the world, you go onto the news and you see Israel. Why? I think that there's some people out there that are saying today that are saying they control everything. They're trying to make statements that they're actually the ones behind all the negativity of the world. If you talk to any Jew, it's like the on the Fiddler on the Roof. God, could you please just choose somebody else? The Jewish people have been through more suffering, persecution for being the Jewish people than anybody else in the world. And that brings us to today. With this current situation that we're seeing right now, with this being shut down, I think as us here, Hayuvel and the Israel guys, it's very clear that this is bigger than just some kind of human rights activist. This is bigger than some kind of, we're going to make a statement against whether we like Israel or not. This has to do with what God's doing in the world, and there's a lot of people that just don't like it. And they're standing against it, but we believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And if you believe in that too, you're on the right side of history. And that's why standing with the people of Israel and that rebirth of the nation of Israel is so important today. Keep standing with the nation of Israel. Fly that flag. Post something on your social media. Stand up, because that's a threat in our country today.
Yeah, I think that's really important, Britt. Speaking of things that we can do to stand in our response to this, I want to bring in now, guys, are we good to go on this, Ben? I want to bring in Tim Miller via Zoom. Tim, great to have you with us. Give me a thumbs up if you're hearing me loud and clear. I'm just going to give you a quick introduction. Tim Miller is the president and founder of Lionheart International Services Group. He's a 30-year law enforcement and military professional as a Secret Service special agent, retired Secret Service special agent assigned to the Washington field office. He coordinated all aspects of security for the president, vice president, and foreign heads of state on a regular basis during his career. And his extensive background includes leadership roles in Homeland Security, law enforcement, and he is a retired Marine Corps Reserves Lieutenant Colonel. So, Tim Miller, welcome to the live stream. We have over 1,500 people watching from all over the world right now. You were involved from the beginning with helping coordinate security for the event. I'd like you to start, if you would, by just speak to what happened from your perspective as the security director for this event.
Yeah, guys, it looks like we're talking again. We've been doing that quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, haven't we? And I just want to start by saying, history has a way of repeating itself, doesn't it? My father was a World War II veteran. He fought in the South Pacific, was in occupied Italy after the war, and really had a strong feeling for the critical nature of all of us to defend freedom. And so it was in that backdrop that I went into the military and I went into law enforcement. But I got to tell you, folks, I've done some major advances for presidents and vice presidents, but this one was one for the record. And when I stepped in with you, first off, it's been an honor to stand with you. It has been incredible to be on this journey and to watch how you all have operated in faith way before this conference, but even during the conference. So when I stepped in, we were looking at a venue in downtown Dallas, not abnormal. 700 people. So we went through all the security protocols, and it was if we know now it was evil, began to unveil itself. We began to get threat reporting. We began to get contacted by different organizations. And to echo, Luke, what you said, this in no way is indicative of law enforcement or Homeland Security or the federal agencies' lack of desire to make this work. Everybody was working very diligently to pull the resources together. But everybody on the call needs to remember that there were two exceptionally hideous acts of violence against Jews within 2 weeks of this event. The couple murdered in Washington, and then we saw the horror of Boulder. And I never thought in my lifetime I would see a Holocaust survivor burned in Boulder, Colorado, an American city. And what's even more tragic to me, guys, is we didn't see an outright outrage amongst the American people. We saw many step forward and decry it, but we didn't see that outrage. And so as we begin to progress in downtown Dallas, we begin to realize, hey, this is not looking good, more reporting. And let me pause here for a second and remind all of us that terrorism, we tend to think of it as the act of terrorism, but remember the threat of terrorism is equally as destructive. And in this case, there were threats. They were quantified threats. We had some very committed people looking at it. We knew it was a large-scale organization that was sponsoring it. And so, quite frankly, as the security costs to secure an event began to rise, we all said, wait, are we going to be able to afford that? Everybody in the local and state organizations were trying to get grant money to support the security costs. But at the end of the day, it was decided that the costs were implausible for Hayuvel, or really, if you think about it, for any organization wanting to host an event that should be relatively normal. And by the way, for reviewers, when it was first just viewed as a normal event, there was a commitment of under 10 police officers for it. It quickly exponentially increased to all kinds of specialized teams, similar to what we would see in a full-scale security operation. So then we moved venue. We went out into the country. And then we realized shortly after that and let's not be fooled, these folks are incredibly gifted at tracking. They're very technically savvy, and they like to cause fear and intimidation, and that's what they did again. Now, I will tell you with certainty that we were prepared. We could have, I think, with the support of the folks that we had with us, we could have likely been able to do that safe. But there was a lot of fear, and we all know what happens in the middle of fear. It creates chaos and doubt, and that's exactly what happened. Here's what I'm reminded, though. I remember sitting on my dad's lap as a young boy and saying, Daddy, what did you do in the war? And he told me, because he stood in the face of horrific evil. And we've been down this road before with it starting with Jews, that the Jewish people are being targeted. Oh, but Christians, it's not far behind that you're going to be in that as well. And I remember thinking at that moment as a child, I want to be a person that stands. I want to be a person that whatever the cost is, because my dad would always remind me, he said, son, there are just certain things worth dying for. And I think for all of us on this call, we realize that time is now. We realize that there's no more, oh, we'll be okay, we'll hide in our churches, or we'll do this and that. No, that time is now. I want you to grab this, folks. Listen to me. In Central Texas, we had to cancel a peaceful meeting between Christians and Jews just because they wanted to support Israel. If that's not a wake-up call, we don't have a wake-up call. That's about as clear as it can get. And as I was talking to my brothers from Hayuvel, and we have become very, very close, I realized, the Lord is calling all of us to stand. If you're an American on this call and you love your freedom, you better stand, because what we're seeing is a fundamental attack against our constitutional rights to free speech, free assembly, and the free practice of our religion. And we watched in Germany, it's been quoted many times, but we watched in Germany as the German people chose not to stand up. They chose to allow it just to get a little worse, just like the frog in the boiling water. And I just want to encourage everybody on this call. It's funny, as a Marine, I always kind of believe that fighting for the freedom of our country is worth dying for. And as a police officer and as a Secret Service agent, you realize, wow, there are certain things protecting the life of the free world, or the leader of the free world, is important. And so let me encourage you and everyone on this call, where are you called to stand? Because I will tell you this, as intimidating and fear-mongering as these folks are, if this nation rises up in righteousness and says, nope, that's not going to happen. We are not going to let terrorists tell us what we can do in our own country. Now, I realize for many that they're going to, I've been getting some labels of late, and not a bad thing. But I would encourage you that talking about it is good, praying about it is better, and doing something about it in concert with the first two is the win. And if I can, Luke, do you mind if I just throw some things that people should be able to do starting right now?
Absolutely. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. First off, I mentioned it. We got to pray, guys. We got to pray as a nation. We have to pray for each other. We have to pray for Israel. We have to pray for America. But here's the point. We can no longer be intimidated. We can no longer be silent. Remember, the tool of terrorism is fear. Their goal is to rob you of your courage. We can't let that happen. And so, okay, Tim, I get it. What should we do? Well, the one thing we're not going to do is stop gathering together. We're going to worship together like we've never worshiped before. We're going to continue asserting our constitutional rights. Folks, these folks are dedicated to destroying constitutional rights. They're using lawyers, they're organized. And I think we have to really stop and think about it. If they're willing to do all that for a lie, what are we willing to do for the truth? Number two, I think we have to listen to me. This is not Kansas anymore. If you're a faith-based institution, a synagogue, a church, you have to have security. It is a Nehemiah moment in our country. The enemy's right outside the wall. For many years, Americans were able to say, oh, no, they're over there. They're in Iran. We don't have to worry about that. Well, guess what? That's not true. The last 4 years has allowed some of the worst, and I won't get into details, but they are here, active in planning. And so we have to be wise, prepared, and planned. We need to train volunteers. We need to train our families. If we believe Scripture, we know challenging times are coming. We need to learn medical stuff. We need to partner with professionals, because those skills that we once were able to put off on law enforcement, now we need to be responsible for ourselves. We also, folks, we have to follow the truth. I love the Israel guys because they tell you the truth. They live there. They're giving you practical information that will help us shape in this void of news, we call it, across the spectrum. We need truth. And so now is the time to really plug in. I would challenge you. We can't live in it because we got to have time to detach and just spend time being okay with the Lord. But then the other thing, folks, is every American that's listening to this, you need to know your rights and not settle for anything less. You must stand. People have died. Some of my brothers, some of all of us likely have friends or family that died so that you can have those freedoms. We should never give them up, ever. And then, folks, this is hard and it's countercultural, but we've got to speak up publicly. By the way, when you do that, stand by to get attacked. Stand by to be ridiculed and labeled. But we have to stand. We have to get in social media. We have to challenge anti-Semitism. We have to begin to speak truth in a world where even speaking truth can get you in trouble. Call it what it is. No longer can we be suppressed and our voices minimized. We have to stand. But we have to stand with our actions and with our mouth. And then, folks, guess what? We got to get engaged in politics. I saw today where a large number of Democrats refused, and this is not political, but they refused to condemn Boulder. Let me tell you something. If that is true, and Fox reported it earlier, that ought to cause all of us rise with anger. If you're not going to call out a barbaric attack on Holocaust survivors, I'm not sure you're going to call anything out. When it comes to elections, volunteer. Make sure you know your elected officials. Reach out to them. This would be a good topic to talk about. Hey, what are you doing to help protect our freedoms? Because make no bones about it, folks, the government's number one job is to protect the people and to make sure that we can exercise our freedoms. And then, folks, I hate to say it, but we have a generation behind us that hasn't been taught the history of our nation. They weren't taught what my dad did in the South Pacific in World War II. They weren't taught what he saw in Italy following the war. And then I know we know this, but we need to get engaged physically. We need to attend rallies and be bold. And I'm not trying to stir up fights here. I'm just saying that we have to show up and we have to be part of the process. Remember, if there's anti-Semitism going on, film it. If you're receiving threats, report it. No longer can we sit back and allow the enemy's strategy to move forward. As a Marine, that angers me because Marines are taught we're always on the offensive with victory in mind. And that's what we must do as a nation. And then, just one final thought. Thank you for your patience. I get a little passionate about this stuff, but freedom's not free. I know we know that. And silence is not safety. As a matter of fact, silence will bring violence. We must act now. We must stand now. And I would say to you what I think my dad said as we sat and talked about the war. I asked him, "Why did you do that, Dad?" And he said, "I didn't have a choice. It was the right thing to do. You can't let evil do its thing and not stand against it." So that's kind of what happened in a nutshell. I went a little longer, Luke. Thank you for your patience. But I really do pray everybody on this call, everybody gets up on the wall, just like Nehemiah. Every family was up on the wall. Everybody was prepared and wise and praying. And that's what I would encourage us all to do. Thanks for letting me talk.
Amen.
Hey, thank you, Tim. Tim Miller. That was amazing. And I just want to say that something I've realized recently is that the pro-Israel community is very large. We're talking millions of people all around the world. But unfortunately, many times people who consider themselves pro-Israel are not very active, or if they're active, they simply pray or give money or wave the Israel flag, which are all amazing, good things to do. But I think what's important is what you've outlined here, and that is taking physical action. Take it to the next step. get involved in politics, do activism, show up at rallies, all of those things, get informed, do so, whatever it is, social media, it's important to get involved and to get active. So an amazing word. Thank you so much. That was very encouraging. And I think everyone out there watching and listening should take that to heart. So thank you, Tim. It's amazing to have you with us.
Thanks. God bless you guys.
Thank you, everyone. We have an upcoming interview with the Israeli ambassador to the U.S., who, as you know, experienced a horrific attack in Washington, D.C. just a couple of weeks ago. That'll be in just a second. Just before we get to that, I just want to mention there is almost 2,000 people watching from all over the world right now, and that is encouraging for us here in Dallas, Texas, and from the land of Israel, our guys from the studio there. So we want to thank you all so much for being on. I know there's people from all over the world.
Put it out there right now. We're going to be going for another little while. Put it out there. Say, hey, going live now. More people can join.
Also, we're going to have another live stream tomorrow night, which we'll announce at the end of tonight's live stream. But couple practical things you can do, guys. Subscribe to the Israel Guys YouTube channel. Subscribe on our social media channels. Twitter or X is probably the best social media channel to follow us on, at the Israel Guys. Go to theisraelguys.com and sign up for our email list so that you can be the first one to be informed as soon as we have a new venue and date for the Israel Summit being rescheduled, which we are in process of doing right now, because this show is not over, folks. This is not a defeat. We're coming back, and we're coming back even stronger, and we want every single one of you to be there in person. So stay tuned for that. We might even announce it tomorrow night on the live stream. Who knows? You don't want to miss it. So, guys, subscribe. Get on our email list so that you can be the first one to know about the Israel Summit being rescheduled. If you want to support our work, we suffered a lot of financial loss from the Israel Summit being canceled. You can do so at theisraelguys.com. I know a lot of you put out a lot of financial investment, and not all of that was recovered as well. For those of you who had tickets and suffered that, just thank you for your sacrifice. I know it's a lot, and we really appreciate you. So right now, without further ado, we are going to Israel, where Joshua Waller interviewed the Israeli ambassador to the United States, Yechiel Leiter. Let's roll that right now.
Hey, I'm so honored to have this moment with you to speak about what's happening in America. But before we do that, I wanted to also let you know that we stood together in a really tough moment. There was thousands of people there when we stood together on Mount Herzl at your son's Moshe's funeral. There was a group of us that were here at that time, a group of volunteer cowboys, and we were there with you. What you have fought a serious fight, and it's such an honor to have this moment with you now as the ambassador. And,
thank you.
All that you've gone through, and the loss of your son. There's no words to even say.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Do you know Lily and Leah? Have you met Lily? Okay.
Of course, we're old friends.
And Leah? Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
I do want to ask you, I've just got a few questions here in light of everything that's going on now in Texas, and I'm sure you're up to date with what happened to us at the event at the Israel Summit in Dallas. It seems like something is terribly amiss in America. You saw this firsthand in D.C. with your staffers, Sarah and Yaron. We saw the firebombing in Boulder, Colorado, and now we're seeing this massive threats across these. For our event being targeted in Texas of all places. I wanted just to ask you, what could you describe? What is this rise of Jew hatred in America, and is something being done at these high levels to combat this right now?
I think it's very important to understand the antecedents of what we're experiencing now. And very often the mistake is made to assume that what's occurring at the moment is just a momentary occurrence. It didn't come out of anything in particular. But anybody who studies history knows that there are antecedents to events that occur. And I think it's unreasonable to assume that the year and a half of an attempt to delegitimize, demonize Israel by putting our prime minister on the charged as guilty block, or guilty as charged block in the International Criminal Court, and so on, accusing him of being a war criminal, accusing our soldiers of being war criminals, accusing the state of Israel as being a colonizer, genocidal state. If you continue to perpetuate that blood libel, which is just that, it's a blood libel. There's no truth to it at all. Some lunatic out there is going to, take the law into his own hands and say, well, I'm going to act against these demons. I'm going to act against this criminal state and its representatives. So here you have, Yaron, who was a Christian Zionist, so committed to the land of Israel, who went through the army as a committed Zionist, who believe that we are in this together. We are representing Judeo-Christian civilization, and there are those who want to deny it. So they're in a battle with us, and it's a very difficult battle. We've lost many people. On October 7th, we lost 1,200. Now we've lost close to 900 soldiers. By American standards, that's about 65,000 people. Imagine that in a year and a half. So rise of anti-Semitism can't be seen as something distinct from the anti-Zionism, anti-Israelism, the intensified campaign to demonize and delegitimize Israel.
It seems that the threat is not only against Jews. I mean, myself, I'm not Jewish, but what I see is happening in America right now is not only a threat against Jews, it's also against people who are standing with you. That's striking, and that's really more than just what would be the terminology of an anti-Semitic attack. This is more than that. It's an attack on our freedom of religion, our freedom of speech in America, specifically what we've just been attacked with in Texas with the event being shut down. What would you say to that? This reality in America that we're facing right now, with this threat to both Jews and Christians to gather freely and to live out our faith in this way. What would you say as the ambassador in this position with this kind of threats that we're facing in America today?
Well, that's what I alluded to before. The threat against Israel now, the war that Israel is facing vis-a-vis Iran and Iranian proxies, is not a war just against Israel. This is a war that is being prosecuted against Judeo-Christian civilization, against Western civilization. And there is within Islam a battle over reformation now. In the same way, our Christian brothers had a reformation 500 years ago, and it was a difficult time. The reformation didn't go overnight. It wasn't a flick of a switch. There were decades of civil wars and confrontations until it kind of evened itself out. And there was an accommodation of reason and religion, revelation and rationalism. There was this merger, this synchrony that developed. Islam developed 600 years after Christianity, and now it's going through its own reformation. So the moderates want to accommodate Judeo-Christian civilization as seen through the Abraham Accords and the peace agreements with Israel. The extremists led by Iran, and here it doesn't matter if you're Sunni or Shiite, the extremists hold together first. Then the Shiites and Sunnis will fight out amongst themselves. But for now, it's let's undercut, let's destroy Western civilization, and they're opposed to any form of reformation. So and that takes on the mantle of destroying Israel. If you destroy Israel, that's the first step in destroying the Judeo-Christian civilization.
Right.
So our battle, really, Israel's battle now against Iran and its proxies, is a battle on behalf of Judeo-Christian civilization.
Ambassador, you've spent your life confronting this evil threat. Your son gave his life fighting this evil threat. What advice would you give to Americans that are waking up today, realizing that this threat that you and Israelis have been fighting for so many years now are now fighting right in America? It's in America. What would you say to them? How would you address because they're in shock right now. There's many that are falling in fear. They don't want to go to the pro-Israel event anymore. They want to take that Israeli flag out of their yard. What do you say to them right now?
Well, I say to him, Josh, take an example from Josh Waller that's talking to us from Har Bracha. Okay, you're up there on the mountain of blessing. Okay, this is where the blessing was given to the Jewish people when they entered the land of Israel. And despite the fact that below that mountain upon which you live, there are people who throw stones, Molotov cocktails, and sometimes actually shoot at your cars. And you remain there. You remain on the mountain of blessing, unafraid. Your orientation of character, your orientation of heart, your mindset is not one of fear. Even though, objectively, there's what to be afraid about. But you don't allow the fear to take over your soul. And that's the most important step. The way that we have been able to survive, really, all of these decades of incessant terrorist attacks on our people, driving the roads of Judea and Samaria. Just think about that. Jews have to explain their right to be in Judea. I mean, could you imagine somebody saying, I'm a Belgian and I have a right to be in Belgium. Jews come from Judea. That's where it all happened, right? So, I mean, we've met in the past in the city of Shiloh. I mean, 369 years, the capital of Israel, where the prophet Samuel roamed and taught his ethics and morality to the people of Israel and to the world, really. Gave us the Bible, biblical passages in Samuel 1, Samuel 2, and anointed our kings, Saul, David, gave direction for what government should look like, for what ethical government should look like. So the first thing is to imbibe oneself in truth, in objectivity, in moral living, and then you're able to overcome the fear, because what terrorism wants to do is break your soul. It wants you to live in fear. And it's imperative, really, now that the citizens of the United States are facing this dramatic rise in, I would say, not only anti-Semitism, not only anti-Israelism, not only those supporting Israel, but what we're seeing in LA right now. This intention to tear down the fabric of Western civilization through violence. That's what it really amounts to. And the important thing is for fair-minded, straight-minded, morally objective people is to say, I am not going to succumb to fear. Now, once we don't succumb to fear, we're going to be able to overcome and talk perseverance to power. What we need is perseverance. And what the Jewish people have said throughout the ages is that we're going to choose perseverance over pain. We're going to turn pain into perseverance. You mentioned my son. So I don't minimize the pain that I experienced at his loss. He was my best friend. He was the first of my children to call me father. I loved him more than I could begin to describe. I miss him more than I begin to describe. The pain of missing him is so deep, it's like it cuts physically at my heart. But I can't stay there. I can't stay in that pain, mostly because he doesn't want me to stay there. He wants me to live. He wants me to live for him now. So we have to kind of transmogrify that pain into perseverance. And I often say, people say, the state of Israel came into being after the Holocaust. It's very important to emphasize. The state of Israel didn't come into being because of the Holocaust. If it was because of the Holocaust, nothing would have come into. We would have collapsed. A normal people collapses after that kind of catastrophe. Right. The state of Israel came into being despite the Holocaust, because we took the pain and the suffering and the calamity and said, what we're going to do is build life. And this is my last point before I let you go. On the issue of building life, because of where you are and where you live and who you live with, Israel is the only country in the developed world with replacement fertility. Israel's the only country having kids so that we actually survive into the future. If you don't have replacement fertility, at least 2 children per family, there's no future. You know, who's going to be the working hands? People are living longer. Who's going to pay for their pensions, right? And, and we're at 3, thank God, the highest rate in the OECD in the developed world. And it also has a lot to do with the fact that despite being at war from the very day we came into existence, we're also always rated high on the International Happiness Index. Okay, because if you're having kids, you're happy, and if you're happy, you're having kids, and you haven't lost meaning in life. And we're very focused on meaning. Our life is filled with meaning, and that's how you can turn the pain of confronting terrorism and suffering and turn it into perseverance and a powerful antidote to those who want to destroy you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Leiter. Could you leave us with just maybe a concrete way that you see that Americans can stand up for Israel right now in America? They're what you said, don't fear. That's a concrete way. Don't be intimidated. What's an action point that you would encourage them to do? And then lastly, is there anything that you could tell them to make them understand that the government is making steps in some direction to make sure these things aren't going to continue?
Well, last question first. I'm very confident in the approach that the Trump administration is taking to this hatred. And I know Leo Terrell, who's in charge of combating anti-Semitism here in the United States. He's very feisty. He's on top of things. He's pushing legislation forward. I have great confidence in Pam Bondi and Janine Pirro. I saw them at the site where Yaron and Sarah were murdered. They were there within minutes. They're going to prosecute these people to the fullest extent of the law. So I'm confident that the administration is taking this very seriously. It's going to combat it very seriously.
Good.
Concrete steps that every individual could do. First of all, prayer. Prayer is very important. We need to connect to something higher than ourselves. I had the privilege of being in a huge church in Atlanta last week. And together with Pastor Franklin, there were some 3,000 people present in the audience, and another 30,000 people on the internet. And I had the privilege of, together with Pastor Franklin, addressing some 33,000 people. And the first thing I said, how beautiful it is to come on a Sunday morning. It was a beautiful day in Atlanta, perfect for golf or tennis or camping. And here we've got 33,000 people attending church and praying together, and it's just beautiful to see people coming together in prayer and in faith. So don't underestimate the power of prayer, the power of coming together, and the power of rising above ourselves and connecting with something that is beyond the temporal and the immediate. The last thing I would say is that make plans for a concrete trip to Israel. There's nothing more life transforming than walking the hills, and if they could, if people could connect with you and spend a little bit of time in the fields and, grow those beautiful grapes in the vineyards and take care of the mountaintops, the heartland and the high ground, the heartland of Israel. This is where it all happened. I mean, you don't need to buy a tour book. You just got to take your Bible with you. Just walk with the Bible and that's your tour book. And every step you take, I mean, you're taking steps that made the Bible really what it is. And it really is a life transforming experience to live with the people, to see the people, see the sites that have been rebuilt, that are being rebuilt. That the site in Shiloh, where you've got the modern sound and light show built above the remnants, right? The archaeological digs of the original tabernacles. You've got, tabernacle underneath,
right?
And a view, the most modern form of digitally connecting with history. So you need that experience. Everybody should take the opportunity.
That's right, and I can be a testimony to that. It will change your life. I'm a Tennessean that came and visited, and life changed, and looky here, I'm still here. Ambassador, I just can't thank you enough for your time on this. I know this has been a great encouragement to all the people who are wondering, where are we at? This seems outrageous. What are we looking at today in America? And this, there was fear creeping in. So thank you for your words. Thank you for your words and your confidence. And thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for representing Israel in my home country, America. This is, it's been an honor to speak with you today about this.
Thank you. It's an honor to be with you, Josh. And please give my best regards to all my dear friends in Har Bracha, the Mountain of Blessing, and of course to family and friends back home in Jerusalem and Tennessee.
Of course,
all your many participants in the conference as well. Best of luck to you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that that amazing, inspirational interview with Joshua Waller and Israeli ambassador to the United States, Yechiel Lexin. So now, Lighter. Yes, thank you for that. We have the incredible honor of R.A. Bramwitz, Jeremy Gimpel, live from Dallas, Texas. We usually come to you guys from the Mount of Blessing in Israel's heartland every single week, but we just happen to be in Dallas, Texas for a very unusual reason, and I want to hear y'all's live, raw reaction to this. Last Wednesday, it was 10 p.m. at night. I woke Joshua Waller up in Israel, and then he said, hey, Jeremy and Ari are on their way to the airport. We should probably get a hold of them if we actually are forced to cancel the summit. So who wants to go first? Jeremy, what happened from your perspective?
It was about 5 o'clock in the morning. My bags were packed. The taxi was literally on the way, maybe 2 minutes outside my house, and I get a WhatsApp saying, do not go to the airport. The Israel summit has been canceled. Red exclamation point. And it was from Josh. And I'm like, what is going on? It's canceled? So I immediately call Ari. I'm like, Ari, I think the Israel summit is canceled. Should we come to Dallas anyway? Or should we just cancel our trip? And we had to make the decision. We had like 2 minutes to make the decision. Are we going to Dallas? Are we not going to Dallas? And I think we left it up to our wives.
Yeah, it really was. I don't leave Israel. I mean, years ago, I used to leave Israel, but our farm on the hills of Judea is so magnificently beautiful and elevated and sacred and inspiring that we just don't leave. It's like a nuclear weapon of inspiration. So why would we leave? But when the Hayovel asks us to do anything, we're going to do it because you are the best friends that Israel and the Jewish people have in the world. So we said that we were going to come, and leave our families on this mountaintop on the Judean frontier. And I was so grateful to get that message. It's off. I don't need to come. And then I got on the phone with Jeremy. We discussed it, and our wives both said, there's a mission. You need to go. There was a Shabbaton that we had this past Shabbat. Our fellowship from all over America came in, converged here in Granbury, Texas, and it was beautiful. And just that alone made the whole trip worth it. But this morning we were with Eric Stockelbeck. We had interviews. Clearly, there's in the eyes of God, there's something more powerful that is going to happen from the cancellation of this summit than if it had happened. That it's the right thing. The best thing could have been for this summit to have been canceled. Why? Because it happened. And whatever happens is in the divine orchestration of God.
I think it's also a testimony that the Israel summit was a great light that was going to be revealed in the world. And every time there's a great light that's going to be revealed, there's going to be forces that try to block that light from coming into the world. But I feel like the reason why we're here right now at this live stream is terror is successful if we're terrorized. And right now, terror is actually winning. They shut down venue after venue. And what was it? It was some guy in his underpants, on some dark web chats, just saying, we're going to send some death threats. It doesn't cost them anything. There's no effort there.
And maybe not. What do you know? How do you know it's a guy in his? Maybe it was a real jihadi that wants to do something. Let him do it.
Well, that's what's going to happen is that they're going to continue to doing this now, meaning the fact that they were successful at shutting down one of the most important Israel events of the year in the United States will only embolden them to want to shut down more Jewish events, Israel events, and then it will start with the Jew. It always starts with the Jew. Whenever evil arises in the world, it attacks the Jew first. And we can learn that from the Nazis. I mean, the Nazis took power. They started systematically annihilating the Jewish people in the 1930s. It got to Pearl Harbor, but it started with the Jew. So right now it's starting with Israel, but this is just a gateway until they start shutting down any event that doesn't fit with their agenda or with their political interests. And once it gets shut down in Texas, if pro-Israel events are being shut down in Texas, there will be shut down all over the world. There's like, what country, what state within this country is more powerful, more independent than Texas? I can't think of any.
Don't mess with Texas. That's what they say, right?
The reason why we're here is, in my mind, we need to regroup, replan, and establish an Israel summit fast here in Texas to not allow the terror to win.
Yeah, somebody came up to me on Friday night, and by the way, like, even though the Israel summit was canceled, we've already spoken to hundreds of people just in Texas in the last few days because it's just been an overwhelming outpouring of support. And we're talking people physically showing up, to a Shabbat gathering, at a Sunday church, an evening barbecue, lunch gatherings. And so it's been overwhelming, the outpouring. But somebody said to me, when someone tries to put out a fire, it creates sparks that simply spread and the light gets even brighter, right? And maybe that's what's happening with the Israel summit, is that the entire purpose, we all know that nothing happens without a reason. We know that God has a plan. There's no such thing as coincidence. Maybe there's a greater purpose here. And we're still looking for what exactly that purpose is, but we're already seeing that the light has spread, not just around the United States, but around the world. Josh has been on in a bunch of Israeli media networks. I've been in a bunch of American networks. You and I were on Eric Stakelbeck today, the Dr. Phil network. We're on the World Prayer Network yesterday. I was on Laura Loomer, Fox News today, Daystar, TBN, CBN, New York Post, The Blaze. But honestly, that's millions of people that have now seen and heard about what happened. And it's a wake-up call. And we're hearing from thousands of people. We have 2,000 people watching right now from all around the world. That light is already getting brighter. And we're in that process of redemption of what is God going to do here? What is the impact going to be? How is it going to be so much greater than what we ever planned originally?
I think it's not only a wake-up call, Luke. I think it's also a test. Meaning that everything that's happening now is supposed to be happening. The prophets have foretold that exactly this would be happening. As a matter of fact, we learn from the sages of Israel that the prophecies in Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jeremiah about the end of days were actually prophesied for us today in these times, because these times will be so tumultuous and terrifying that we will need the words of the prophets to hold on to for dear life, to know that things will come out well. In the end, light will shine. And so it's meant Israel will stand alone. We're going to stand alone. The prophets have foretold it throughout Zechariah 12. I just wrote this one. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of staggering to all the surrounding peoples. On that day, I will make Jerusalem a burdensome stone to all the nations, and all who try to lift it will hurt themselves. The nations will all gather against it. Isaiah, from the nations, no one was with me. I looked, but there was no one to help. I was appalled that no one gave support. We're going to stand alone. This is what the prophet said. But why must we stand alone? This needs to happen for two reasons. One, so the nation of Israel ourselves looks to the north, to the south, to the east, to the west, to America, our old friend, our old ally, America, and we're all alone. And then we have no choice but to look up and say, God, help us. We're all alone. Please help us. And that's why this needs to happen. So we know, so the nation of Israel knows that it is not by power and not by might, but the word of God that our salvation will come. But it's also for the nations. We need to stand alone so the nations will have an opportunity that those righteous remnant in each of the nations of the world, those few sparks of light, will have an opportunity to stand with us, not just in word, but in deed. And it's going to get to the point where there will need to be sacrifice. You can't stand with Israel and the Jewish people in a real way if you're not willing to sacrifice. And that's what we're coming up to. Mordecai said it to Esther, right? He said, do not imagine that you, of all the Jews, will escape with your life. If you keep silent, salvation and deliverance will come to the Jews from another place, while you and your father's house will perish. And who knows, perhaps you have attained this royal position for just such a time. Right? If Americans think that just by being quiet and hiding and not making waves, that the jihad will overlook them, that they're not in the crosshairs, they don't understand that they are signing their own death warrant. By standing with Israel, you're supporting the tip of the spear in the battle against all of Western civilization, the entire free world. Israel and Judea are the tip of the spear.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. Something that I kind of thought about as I came from Israel to America, and then this happened, First of all, driving to the airport with my daughter and seeing on, the WhatsApp breaking news, another missile launch from Yemen, but not even blinking an eye because that happens every day now. There's a ballistic missile every single day from Yemen. But 2 weeks, I think, before we left to come to America, a pregnant woman was murdered on the road just 30 minutes from where we live. And the baby tragically died, I guess my point, what I was thinking of is that Israel is used to terror. Israel is used to the jihad. Israel is used to fighting back against their enemies. They're constantly in a war on multiple fronts. Israel's standing strong. The Jewish people in Israel have made their decision. But now, I think Americans, the Jewish community, the Christian community, are used to a lot of freedom. Americans are used to safety. In general, obviously things happen, but in general, America's a safe place. It's a democratic, free nation. People aren't used to missiles being fired from, a neighboring country. They're not used to, let's say Colombia firing a ballistic missile at the United States every day. They're not used to, driving to the hospital, have a baby, and having to worry about terrorists lining up on the side of the road with an AK-47 opening fire. And then we come to Dallas, Texas, to have a peaceful gathering, a pro-Israel 3-day event, educational event with people, from all over Israel. And it gets shut down because of jihadists, whether they're a guy in his underwear on the dark web posting or whether there's actually people with, AR-15s planning to show up at the event and commit violence. Americans, that's a new reality, I think. And this is a lead up, too, because we did see 2 Jews murdered in Washington, D.C. At the Israeli, or part of the employees of the Israeli embassy. We saw 15 people injured in a firebombing attack in Boulder, Colorado. And then what happens? A pro-Israel conference in Dallas, Texas gets canceled because people are worried. People are concerned. And this is a new reality. And so I think it's kind of a decision point for people. And it's whether you're Jewish or you're Christian. And I mean, if you're Christian, it kind of depends on if you actually align yourself with the God of Abraham and the nation of Israel and the Jewish people, because there are people who call themselves Christians who actually hate Israel and the Jewish people, and we won't get into that topic or name any names. But if you align yourself with the Bible and the God of Abraham and the Jewish people and the nation of Israel, then you have to be prepared for a new level of threats. You have to be prepared to stand up physically. Are you prepared in America today? And so that was something I was kind of processing on the way over here. And after everything happened, man, it's just hard to kind of figure out what is the state of America today. Like, where are we at?
I'll tell you what keeps on coming to my mind is the holiday of Hanukkah. And we say a blessing every time we pray during those 8 days that thank you, God, for delivering the many in the hands of few, for delivering the strong in the hands of the weak. And those two make sense because the Greek Empire was massive and big and strong, and the Jews were small and weak. And then it says, for delivering the wicked in the hands of the righteous. I'm like, well, what does that have to do with anything? Why is that a part of the blessing at all? And when I think about what's happened here, enemy events won't be canceled. It's not like if there's a pro-Palestine event or a woke liberal event that there's going to be death threats from Jews or Christians that are going to shut down their events. And so we've been put in a position where the violent other side is using their violence to shut us down where we're never going to shut them down. And the fact that ultimately, even though we're small and they're big, and there's only a few million Jews, and there's over 1 billion Muslims, and the fact that it's literally impossible odds with the righteous against the wicked, the righteous are going to win nonetheless, is the way that God works to reveal his glory in the world.
Yeah, I'll tell you, this also feels personal for me, because clear, I was born in the exile. I was born in America because of the destruction of the temple and the exile of the Jewish people around the world, but nothing's an accident. And I'm a 4th-generation Texan. And so that's a lot of Texas to be in my heart burning bright. And I've always been proud of Texas. I've always loved Texas, and I've always loved America through the prism of being a Texan. And for this to be happening, it's like they, without even meaning to, they struck the heart of America. The last, if this happened in Oregon, wow, surprise, surprise, that Oregon folded. But Texas, what other state has don't mess with Washington State? Don't mess with Virginia. You don't hear that, but don't mess with Texas. Everybody knows that. From my balcony, when October 7th happened, October 7th, and there were a lot of people suggesting, Ari, Jeremy, you're on the tip of the spear there in Judea, on the Judean frontier, surrounded by jihadist villages. You really need to get out of there. And you can see Masada. From my balcony, you can see Masada, the last stand of the Jews that said, we would rather go down in flames than surrender.
Which Texans should relate to,
Should relate to from the Alamo. The Alamo is a big part of who I am also. So just as like October 7th, I said, you can try to get us out of here, but you'd have to kill me 1,000 times. Right. I'm not giving up. It's the Jew in me. It's the Texan in me. And so I really think that what happened, I was like, what has happened to Texas? Has it lost its strength? Has it lost its conviction and its faith and its fear of God and the values that make Texas, Texas? And then I come here to Texas and I say, no, you know what happened? They were just caught unawares. It was a perfect mix of events where they were caught by surprise. In October 7th, Israel, we were really caught unaware, caught by surprise. And what did we do? We reacted. We mobilized the country. We mobilized our army. And we said, we are not going down like that. We are going to fight like lions. And that's what we've done. And that's what Texas needs to do. Okay, we were caught unaware in Texas, but we're not going to just fold and walk away. Texas needs to double, triple, 10 times. Every synagogue, every church, every liberty-loving Texan needs to come out and say, we're going to have an Israel event. We're not going to pay 1 cent for security. Just invite Texans and then invite these Palestinian spineless cowards, these Palestinian activists representing a nation that doesn't even exist, a people whose identity was created to negate that of Judea and of Israel. Invite them all out. And you know what's going to happen? They're not going to come because they're cowards. That's what's going to happen.
Which is something we saw last year in Nashville, Tennessee, because if you guys remember, this event was nearly canceled last year after the first venue canceled because of Hamas thugs and their threats. And ultimately, Dave Ramsey stepped in at the 11th hour and hosted the event at his headquarters in just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. And like you were saying, Ari, not one protest. We had top of the line security. The state of Tennessee stepped in. We had every agency in the state show up. This event was well protected. Not one person showed up. Not one Palestinian flag. Not one protester, because people saw Dave Ramsey was strong. The Israel summit was strong, and they just knew this is not a place for us to show up. So, Jeremy, what would you say would be a good? We've heard a lot of responses tonight. What should people do? What should our reaction be? Like, what should we do moving forward from here?
Well, it seems everything needs to be seen in the context of the biblical proportions in which we live, the biblical days in which we live. If we are, in fact, a part of the redemption process, then we need to know that that process is a sifting process. It's sifting out those that are fair weather friends, and it's sifting out those that are real believers in God, real lovers of Israel, and that sacrifice that Ari spoke about, that courage that's demanded, meaning it's now time for people to flex their muscles of strength and courage, regroup, regather, and not 1,000 people at the summit. 10,000 people should come out to the summit, not only for Israel, but for Texas, for America, for their own future. And that sifting process, when people say he who blesses Israel will be blessed and he who curses Israel will be cursed. So we can understand that in some sort of spiritual way, like you bless Israel, God will bless you. But when this Israel summit was shut down, it's a curse to Israel, but that will only bring more curses and more events to be shut down. And in order to counteract that, in order to restore the blessing, then we have to restore the event. And I think that the right move is to sign up right now. Pre-order your tickets right now before you even know where the venue is, and come out strong.
Yeah, no, I think that's so true. I think we have to have this response, because if Americans give up now, then, like you're saying, in Texas of all places, then America is at a very dangerous place. We're asking the question, every media network we've been on, we're asking the question, where is America right now? Is this 1939 Germany? And I think that question kind of hangs in the air. What are Americans going to do? Right now, there's 1,700 people from all over the world watching, and we appreciate you guys being on. Are you guys going to be there in person in Texas when we reschedule? We hope everyone will be there. Will you be there on the live stream? What can each person do? What is every single person going to do to get actively involved? Because, and this might be a little bit strong, but it's not enough to wave the Israel flag. It's not enough to pray. It's not enough to give money. Although you should do one or all of those things, but you have to be active. Whatever you can do, whatever God has given you to do, the skill and the talent and the gifting that you have to get involved. We talked about this on our podcast that we usually do from the Mount of Blessing a couple of weeks ago, but the Eurovision contest happened, and the Israeli singer who was an October 7th survivor, right, was in the singing contest. The judges placed her at like 51 or something like that. But when the public vote came in, she came in second place. And what that told me is that there was millions of people all over the world who actually stand with and love Israel. And they're just not as loud as the haters. The haters are the people who are loud. But when it comes down to it, there are millions of people who love Israel. But I think the downfall is that many times those people are just too quiet. They're a little bit too passive. And the time for passivity, the time for just watching an observation and waving the flag, that time is gone. It's time to get active.
Yeah, the media and the global elite, they insist on framing this as the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Why? Because Israel is the Goliath and these little Palestinians are David, and that's the way they make it. But I think people around the world, even in the countries represented by those global elites, know and are experiencing the truth as jihadists are going into kindergartens and playgrounds throughout Europe and stabbing babies. They're realizing that this isn't about an Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This is about the jihad declaring war on all of humanity. And what do they scream? That's how we knew in Washington that it wasn't an actual Muslim jihadist that killed those Jews, because he said free Palestine.
Right.
If it was a jihadist, what would he have said? Allah Akbar. And what does Akbar mean? It means the greatest. That's the foundation of what they're all about. Kabira just means great. They're not saying God is great. Allah is the greatest. And what do? Every single bit of this jihad, of this war, throughout all of history, since they've come into existence, has been a demonstration of that. They build their mosques on top of Hindu shrines, Buddhist places of worship, synagogues. They want to dominate. That's their goal, is to dominate. We can't let them dominate. This is a spiritual war. It's a religious war, and the fact is that we also can't make our whole lives about them. If we're fighting darkness with darkness and we're just battled in this darkness, we need to be shining a light of prayer and positivity and Torah and inspiration and invitation and faith and trust. And that light, if we shine it bright enough, that will just dispel the darkness as the emptiness that it really is.
Well, I feel like that's a really important point. Everyone is constantly framing Israel with ambassadors and diplomats, and there's politics and there's a war, and there's constantly framing Israel's conflict. But this is, like what you said, a spiritual religious war. And the little dropback right behind here really points to the heart of it all, supporting the heartland of Israel. Well, the heartland of Israel. We're talking about the biblical heartland, and that's really what the Israel Summit was all about. It was bringing the top leaders and activists and spokesmen and real people of the land, because that's what this war is all about. There is one promise given to the people of Israel, and it was that one day the eternal people of Israel would receive the heartland of Israel. They would receive the promised land. And all of the war, October 7th, all the politics, all world events are all revolving on the axis of what is ever going to happen with God's promise to his people. And as long as the Jewish people are living in Judea, we are a living testimony that God runs the world, that he fulfills his promises, and that we are living out the Bible in our own lives. And that's why the enemy came to shut down this event. And, when we went out to the barbecue just the other night, it was so shocking to me. I mean, there were like armed forces with magazines, earpieces at a barbecue at a Jewish home. I mean, it's like every synagogue in Texas, actually, I found out, has entire security systems in place. We don't have security systems. We're in the deepest settlement in the West Bank, at the edge of Jewish settlement in Judea. We don't have security forces outside our synagogues. But here in Dallas, it really is a wake-up call that outside of Israel, it's no longer safe to be a Jew. And the true safety is what people see as a war zone. It's safer to live in a war zone in the land of Israel than it is to be outside of the land of Israel at this point.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that feels wild to say that. But after, going to a barbecue last night and seeing the level of security just to go to somebody's house, in the Jewish community here, it really feels true. Honestly, too, like being at the airport in Israel and seeing the news that a ballistic missile is being fired from Yemen and feeling like it's old news, and then coming to America and feeling like it's more dangerous here, that's something kind of wild to process. But it feels like the reality that we're living in right now. I know our time's going fast, and I do want people to get a glimpse into Jeremy and Ari and the Land of Israel Network and the Arrow Goat Farm. So, tell people a little bit about you guys. Tell them about where you come from and what you guys do. Tell the story, the Judean mountains, the Arrow Goat Farm.
Well, if we believe that the entire world's process of redemption is about reclaiming the land of Israel, the reason why Hayovel goes out to the mountains of Judea and Samaria and supports the farmer in reclaiming the land and helping the farmers of the land, then Ari and I decided to dedicate our lives to going out to the farthest settlement in Judea that we could 9 years ago, where there wasn't a road, there was no electrical infrastructure, there was no water line, there wasn't a single tree. It was like at the edge of the Judean desert, overlooking the Dead Sea. And we decided to establish what now is the Arrow Goat Farm, which has become a global destination of people that want to experience the mountains of King David and taste of the magic of that land.
I always tell people that I could try to describe it in words, but that would be like showing you a sheet of musical notes versus going to a philharmonic orchestra. It is something you need to experience. Why? Because the land itself, yes, it's where King David wrote the Psalms, but I used to think that's why it feels so holy. Now I actually think it's so holy because it's been infused with holiness from the days of creation, and that's where King David got the inspiration from. The prophets tell us that when the Jews return to Judea, the land will turn green and give forth its fruit. And we have vineyards and thousands of trees giving forth their fruit. But even more so, when people come out, the tears begin to flow and they start to talk to God in ways their hearts open up. Because when Jews return to Judea, as the prophets say, God will take from us a heart of stone and put within us a heart of flesh. That he will remove from, that there will be a circumcision of our hearts. And that's what we're experiencing. And so that's what we're doing in the fellowship. We started this fellowship years ago.
While you're talking about the fellowship, if you're a part of the fellowship, I want you to put it in the chat right now, because I'd love to see it. And Jeremy and Ari would love to see who's on from the fellowship right now. So go ahead.
Today we were able to have lunch here in Dallas with a number of our fellowship people who told us what the experience is like for them. And it's like, not only our fellowship people, they're not our friends, they're our family. Jews, Christians, non-Jews, people in spiritual no man's land, people that love Israel, that are thirsting to learn Torah from Jews in Judea. Not just to learn Torah, but to have a real relationship of love and of connection and of inspiration. And that's what the fellowship has really become. You know, that the prophets tell us, right, that in that day, knowledge of God will cover the earth as water covers the sea. Right? You know the story about the two fish that are in the fish tank, and one says, I don't know, do you believe in water? The other says, I don't know, my grandfather believed in water. They're immersed in water. The truth of God is supposed to be blasted out with a light of inspiration from Judea to the world, and that's what is happening and playing out on the fellowship. And that's why it's not about the jihadists. They're just there as defibrillators, waking up the nation of Israel, and they have been waking us up. And that's why we're all taking off our patches of our army units and putting on a patch for the temple. Right, and a patch about Messiah, because that's what we're fighting for. We're not fighting for the government of Israel. We're not fighting for the state of Israel. We're fighting for the kingdom of God. We're fighting for the temple of God on Mount Moriah in Jerusalem, where a light will shine. And if only, the greatest tragedy is if only these jihadists knew the blessing that the temple would be for them, they would all be helping us build it.
But see, there are forces of order in the world and there are forces of chaos in the world. And God created the world from chaos, and then he brought order to the world. The people of Israel, we bring order to the world. We can go to a barren mountain and start to plant trees, and all of a sudden the desert starts to blossom. That is a messianic prophecy. When the Jews come to a land, they bring law and order and peace and prosperity. When we left Gaza, 80% of Israel's organic growth was exported from the sand dunes of Gaza. And as soon as we left Gaza, it turned into Hamastan in terror tunnels and the chaos that is Gaza now, because there are forces of chaos that want to bring death and destruction. And then there's the forces of order in the world. The Jewish return to Judea is restoring order to the world. And what is the divine order? That the Jewish people are called with a mandate to be a light to the nations. And there are nations around the world that actually want to really learn the Torah from the Jews in the land. The Torah will go forth from Zion and the word of God from Jerusalem. And people are saying, well, why am I learning from rabbis in Dallas? I want to learn the Torah from Jews in Judea. That's actually the restoration of order. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish, is restoring the divine order.
And while we have proven in Israel that we are willing to sacrifice our lives for our land and for our God and for our people, we have proven that by action. Our prayer still is that our Muslim, Arab brethren will open their eyes, our cousins will open up their eyes and say, what have we done? What have we done to our cousin Jacob? What have we done to our brother Isaac? What have we done to them? And we'll be able to live with each other and love each other and honor each other. Not just coexist and not murder each other. There's going to be a love there. But that's only going to come when we return to our identity as Jews. And that's part of the reason that this whole war is happening. It's not just happening to Israel. It's not just happening to Texas, to America. It's happening for all of us, to give us that opportunity to have the unshackle that line of Judah within each and every one of us and fight without any fear. We could either have fear or desire. Fear is when you allow fear into your heart, you maximize the probability of that very thing you're afraid of manifesting itself in winning. If you have fear, you need to replace that with desire. And that's what we're here to do.
I think that's incredible. And just so you know, you got a lot of fellowship members on the live stream right now. They're in the chat. So you guys are out there, and I think it's just amazing that people have the opportunity every single week to connect with two Jewish rabbis from Judea. And if you're not a part of the fellowship, people can join at thelandofisrael.com, right? So thelandofisrael.com. Ben, I just lost the live stream. Are we still good? Make sure we're not having technical difficulties. Okay. Before we go, guys, I just got a text from somebody. You want to hear something like really, really inspirational? I'm going to show you a photo, and Ben, if we could put this up on the live stream too, that would be awesome. This is a man named Tim, and he is standing in front of the first venue where the Israel Summit was supposed to be held. Tim is from Canada. He took a train, took him several days, and I believe he's on the live stream right now. Took him several days to get to Texas, so he was already en route when the summit was canceled. So he came to Texas anyways. But the most inspirational thing, Tim is blind. Man, I don't get emotional. Tim is blind, and he was determined to come to the Israel Summit by himself. And he came all the way from Canada. It took him days to get here. And when he got the call that the Israel Summit was canceled, he came anyway. He's wearing a shirt that says "Pray for Israel," and he went to the original venue and took a photo just to take his stand. And, you know, somebody was asking in the chat, they said, we're doing all the things you mentioned, but you said we have to do more. What else can we do? I want to say, be like Tim. Be like Tim.
I want to be like Tim.
And do something that is difficult. Guys, it's not about it being easy. It's not about just praying. It's not about just waving the Israel flag. It takes some work. And Tim came all the way here from Canada, blind, by himself, and the Israel Summit was still canceled. And he said, no, I'm still going to show up. I'm going to wear my Pray for Israel shirt, and I'm going to demonstrate publicly that I'm standing with Israel. So if that doesn't inspire you to get involved, I don't know what will.
I want to say right here, right now, that Tim, if you're listening, we are officially, cordially inviting you to the Aru Goat Farm, to our guest houses at the farm. I will personally wash your feet and slaughter you a sheep, Tim, because you deserve that sort of Abrahamic reception as far as, because what does that mean? What is Tim doing? Why the Abrahamic reception? Abraham was a Hebrew, an Ivri. Ivri is from the word ever, the other side. The whole world was worshiping stones and rocks. And Abraham said, no, there is one God. And they said, you're crazy. And he said, there is one God, and that was Abraham. And whoever is willing to stand alone, despite their friends and their family and their communities and their countries turning against them and saying, no, 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 you're crazy. If you are able to do that, then you're a Hebrew. And Tim is a Hebrew, and it would be an honor to host him in our farm in Judea.
Tim, that's your personal invitation. You should know Ari means every word he says. And guys, be like Tim, you know. And by the way, I did want to extend a personal invitation to everybody to come to Israel. I know not everyone can go to Israel, but if you can, you should go. And you have to go to the Our Goat Farm in Judea, and you have to come to the Mount of Blessing, to Hayuvel, and your life will be changed forever. And there's no way you will not be able to stand with Israel once you go to the land of Israel. Obviously, we want you to come to the Israel Summit, but I can't even say it. It's better to go to Israel than to come to the Israel Summit. Yeah, if you can go to Israel, forget the Israel Summit. But do both. But guys, that's your personal invitation. You have to go to. That is something. I know it's hard. I know there's a war in Israel. I know tickets are expensive. Airlines are canceling. It's crazy to go to Israel. But if you can, go. That's the ultimate way to stand with Israel and the Jewish people. Ari Bramowitz, Jeremy Gimpel, any last words?
I think it's God's foreign policy is clear. He who blesses Israel will be blessed, and he who curses Israel will be cursed, and you don't want to be on the wrong side of that promise. And so my real concern when I heard about all this happening, my real concern is not for Israel. We are going to be fine. We're going to be more than fine. God is with us. My concern was for the fate of America. And America has been a great country to the Jewish people. It's been a source of light. It's been a nation that believes in the Bible and biblical values. And so I felt like I needed to come here and fight for America. I owe America that. Yeah. And that's what we really are here to do.
Yeah. Jeremy Gimpel, Ari Bramowitz, the Land of Israel Network, the Land of Israel Fellowship, thelandofisrael.com. Guys, be a part of it. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for your sacrifice, leaving your families in Israel and coming all the way to Dallas, even if it's canceled. I heard a rumor if the Israel Summit gets rescheduled, you guys are going to be here. So you got 2,000 people watching who are going to hold you to it. They want to see you at the Israel
Waller,
Summit.
Where are you? Where are you, Josh Waller? Just kidding.
He'll be here. He'll be here for sure. So thank you guys so much. Guys, we have we have almost 2,000 people watching from all over the world. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure to subscribe to the Israel Guys YouTube channel. Thank you to please get on our email list, theisraelguys.com. We appreciate everyone's support. We have just a little bit of time left in the live stream. Josiah Hilton is taking over along with Yoni Tokar. Go ahead and have a seat, or is he taking my spot, Ben? I'm going to get out of the way, guys. So Josiah, take it away.
All right. Thanks, Luke. Thanks, Ari and Jeremy, for that inspirational segment telling everybody how they can support Israel and stay connected. Before we get started here with Yoni, I just want to shout out the folks that are donating on the chat. We have Mark, Tommy, Gabby, Eric. Thank you guys for your support and donating in the YouTube chat here. We really appreciate that, and that will all go towards supporting Israel. All right, guys, we have a very special guest tonight and somebody who you are going to see at the Israel Summit. Before we get started with the interview, I just wanted to introduce you officially. I'm joined by Yoni Tokayer from the Israeli music group Yonina. Yonina started filming simple weekly videos at home, which soon turned into a global phenomenon with millions touched by their harmonies, and their viral cover of One Day reached over 40 million views. Is that correct? Since they've released 2 beautiful albums, performed across Israel, the U.S., and Europe, and continue to create music that uplifts hearts and brings people together. So we have probably a lot of people watching that are big fans of you guys, of Yonina. And I'm joined by Yoni tonight. And first off, I want to get your reaction to, obviously, we invited you guys to come out and perform for the Israel Summit, to share with us your beautiful music. The taste of Israeli music at the event. And I want to get your reaction to what was it like when you heard that the Israel Summit was canceled. And I'll say first off, for me, being one of the organizers of the event and trying to get this and inviting all you guys to come and trying to get the message of Israel, of the amazing things that are happening in Israel to the world and garner support for Israel and America. When we finally had to cancel the event, it felt like such a defeating moment. But for me personally, I felt a profound sadness for all of you guys. And I just felt like for me as a Christian, all of a sudden, all my friends in Israel, all the people that are traveling halfway across the world, Jews, my Jewish friends, I felt there's no place in America I can invite them to anymore, because all these people are coming out and saying they hate Jews, and they're coming to, making threats, jihadist threats against the Israel summit. And for me, it was a big blow, and it just felt like, what can we do? Like, how can I tell my friends that there's no place for them in America? And so I want to get your reaction to, what was it like when you heard that news?
Yeah, so actually, when you reached out to us in the beginning to come to the summit, we actually just closed a performance in Albany, New York, a month earlier. So we said, how are we going to, fly to this summit a month after month? We have 4 kids at home. We can't do this. But then we were speaking with each other. We're like, there's so many haters of Israel. Finally, there's a huge summit of supporters. How could we turn down something like that? So we decided that we're just going to turn this into a month-long tour and stay in America leading up to this summit. And that's what we did. So we did a bunch of 10 different events, and the whole goal was to stay here until the summit. And then finally, our last location was Chicago. And then we got this phone call saying that the summit was canceled. And really, this was leading up after hearing about what happened in D.C., that we were also performing in D.C. that week when there was the attack. And then so many things are happening here. And it was so surprising. The first thing we said was, what? But it's in Texas. Texas, that's the place. What other place would be safe if not Texas? We were so surprised. We actually didn't believe it in the beginning. We said, for sure they're going to get something together, especially with you guys. So amazing, putting everything together, always have something up your sleeve. And kind of shocking, the idea that it's not, it's not happening. And the first thing that came to mind was, I know that in America, most of America's supporters, most of the Americans are supporting Israel because they're supporting the ideas and the values of the Jewish people and the biblical values of freedom. And I know that it's just a little minority of these jihadist people that are making so much noise and are doing this. But it kind of brought me back to the day of October 7th, where leading up to that, all we wanted was just quiet. All we wanted is just peace and quiet. We didn't want, we just want to live our life. We want to live our life and do good things. We want to shine a light. We want to settle, hearing Jeremy talking about settling the land. That's what we want to do. And we don't want to fight. We don't want to, no one's interested in that. So when you can have some quiet, let's just keep quiet. Let's just, and I feel like that's what's happening. We learned our lesson really badly, that you want quiet and then it just attacks you even worse. And I feel like it's not like people are against Israel. Everyone's for Israel, but people want quiet. And I think that's something that's what brought this cancellation. I don't want to deal with this. That's my feeling. That's my gut feeling. I know there's support, but
yeah, and that's something that I think we soon realized afterwards was like, in the moment it felt like there was nobody. In the moment it felt like there was no possible way that Jews could safely gather in America anymore. And then we quickly realized that there are, but we just have to find them. We have to find the Christians, the Zionists, the people that love Israel so much. Right now they're being quiet, but hopefully this will create a stir and help take our country back, take America back for the biblical values that we stand on, and allowing things like this to progress. So you perform a lot in the United States and in Europe as well, right? And so you've probably experienced security issues before with different events. I'm assuming most of the events you perform for are Jewish, Christian events as well, maybe.
Right. So most of the events are really Jewish. We go for Jewish communities all around Europe and the United States, and also in Israel. Lately, we just did a few things in Holland and different places for Christian communities. And every place we get to, the truth is, I feel like it's bad luck, kind of, because we went to Holland, and then a week later there was a crazy attack over there after the soccer game that was over there. But I realized that things are escalating. Like there's more security, more guards. Things are happening. You need more of that from my experience, but never in such a way that it's canceled. Like great America can't protect, right? Like what's happening? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me as a
right. Right, and I'm assuming you didn't expect that coming from a Christian organized event.
For sure. I mean, especially knowing who's organizing it and how dedicated and everything, I saw that it's something much greater. Something so much greater that it's almost like, like godly, and a lot of times that's a lot of my deep belief a lot of times comes from this things that don't make sense. Like it doesn't make sense. I remember I was in Jerusalem. I used to learn there in a yeshiva, and a friend of mine has an apartment over there, and he closed his balcony. And then they got a phone call, and from the municipality said you have to open up but you close, you have to open up. You don't have permission. He goes, but I got permission. He goes, no, but it's not up to us. It came from the government. And he researched this whole thing, and it turns out that it was in the time when Clinton, whatever it was, they no building in East Jerusalem, whatever it is. And his name's Tziki. No, Tziki is not going to close his balcony in Jerusalem. Why do you guys care so much about what's happening in Jerusalem? But that just gave me more of a belief that okay, I guess something special. There's something special about the Jewish people living in Jerusalem. There's something special about even closing your little balcony. And same to here. I feel if there's so much anti, that means that there's something greater. It's not just FBI issues. There's something much greater that's happening. A light that's supposed to shine.
Yeah, and I think the way everything played out, with this summit being canceled and all that, I think it really shows the nation of America and American citizens just how real the battle is right now. Because unfortunately, and I hate to even say this, but Jews have been targeted for decades in America, and there's been, and unfortunately, a lot of Americans are just lulled to sleep by that. We're like, okay, whatever, people hate Jews. That's a horrible thing to say. But for this to happen to a Christian organized event, I think hopefully this will wake people up, saying that this is not just a Jewish threat. And even if it was a threat just to Jews, which it mostly is, the Christian world in America should be able to stand up, and hopefully this will awaken them to stand with your nation. And yeah, there's just such a spiritual battle going on in the political realm in America and all over the world, really. When it was just what you were mentioning with that pushing back against Jews in Israel and pushing back against Jews all over the world, and that kind of persecution, you could say. So Yoni, as an Israeli, as somebody who lives in Israel all the time, what is your message for the people of America today, to the Zionists, to those that they want to do something? They love Israel, and they just don't exactly know how. What is your message?
I think in general, like I said, I think there's millions and millions and millions of people that support Israel, support the ideals, the ideology, and everything. But when it comes to day-to-day life, you go to work, you come home, you're a little bit tired, you watch something on social media, and you go to sleep. That could take away from actually living a meaningful life and doing something, and that's what's stopping the good from shining over this evil jihadist idea. So I think it could be, I don't even know what it could be, but it's pretty much just not being scared to voice your voice. I mean, putting up an Israeli flag, we shouldn't be scared to do that. My friend said, "Are you going to walk around with a yarmulke, with a kippah on your head when you walk around?" I was, of course I'm going to walk around with a kippah. Why wouldn't I walk? No, it's dangerous today. What are you talking about? I have my, we were talking about my tzitzit. I have my tzitzit. I walk around out. Should I put it in or not? So put it. So if a person's not scared of what he believes in, and he's actually open about it, Israeli flags, social media, talking about it, that enough, making a voice, it makes a difference. And also there's people were talking about prayer a lot. And something that I once heard that really goes with me is that a prayer without an action is like a soul without a body. Wow. You want to have, we have a body and we have a soul, and you want your soul to come through and your actions to realize that soul you have. The person has a prayer. The prayer has to come down to action. You have to be the messenger of the divine, of God, to actually make it happen. And that's what the Jewish people are trying to do in Israel. We're trying to bring these heavenly ideas and bring them to action. And anyone that wants to be part of that process has to take these ideas he has, things he believes in, and actually actualize. So it could be the smallest thing, but just anything you believe in, make one action out of it. And that one thing, if we have millions of supporters, we have millions of actions, and that's going to become a wave of just good that's going to overcome the bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. And yeah, you guys heard it. You heard it from Yoni. Put your prayers to action, because prayer is probably the biggest thing you can do for Israel right now. But the second biggest, and it's a very close second, and it follows right behind prayer, is putting action to that, putting action to your prayers, standing up for Israel, speaking out, being a loud voice. Because if nobody speaks out, then the evil will triumph, and we know that. And we've seen that throughout history, time and time again. Not just relating to the Jewish people, but I would say especially relating to the Jewish people and God's plan for you guys and for the nation of Israel. And thank you so much, Yoni, for joining us, coming all the way to Dallas, Texas, and for joining us on this live stream and encouraging the people of America today, the Zionists in America. Thank you so much for coming on the live stream with us today and showing up, even though the summit was ultimately canceled.
Hopefully we'll be coming on again to play some
That's right.
some music with Nina.
Absolutely.
I'm not used to being with, Yonina is Yoni and Nina. I'm not used to being just Yoni.
That's right.
So I'm like, waiting for like Nina
It's
to talk.
only half the band here, right?
So it's like,
so you'll be hearing more from Yonina very, very shortly. How can people stay connected to you guys?
just Yonina music. Yeah. And we'll love to just, connect around the world music.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Yoni, for joining us. All right, guys, we are going to Joshua, who is back in the studio in Har Bracha. Josh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here loud and clear, guys. I want to thank everybody for jumping on the live stream here. This has been it's the best of what we can do right now. We're going to, and we commit to, as the Israel guys who really don't back down. The Israel guys are not backing down in our support for Israel. I was getting a kick out of watching all the comments as all of you were. I'm getting a lot feed still from the studio there from you guys. You guys are still alive on your side as well. Guys, I was getting a kick out of watching the comments rolling in and seeing there's a lot of support for Israel and America. And we know that, and that's nothing new to us. The fight, and this is what we're bringing to your attention right now, is America is at a crossroads. That is very clear. We're seeing support for Israel fail. That's obviously there as well. The young people compared to those of the younger generation, it pales in comparison. The older generation supported Israel in a massive way. Younger people, that support is failing. And so this highlights the importance of Israel support now. The new generation that's rising up in America that will be the leaders of America. Give it another couple of years. America's at a crossroads, and we have to decide now what our future will be. Will we be a nation like all the other nations who went before us, or is America something special that chooses to continue in our founding that was very much built on faith and freedom? Will we continue that? And now with the recognition of the state of Israel that America was deeply and incredibly supportive of, we recognized the moment and we supported that moment. Will we continue to do that today? And that's the critical crossroads that we face in America right now. And if we do not continue to stand with Israel, we'll just be like every other nation. We'll be like those that failed to recognize the moment they lived in. Let's just go through history real quick back as far as Babylon, to Greece, to Rome, to the Ottomans, even to the British. Guys, these nations, just a snippet of history, tell us what happens when we choose not to stand with Israel. Their kingdoms fail. Their let's say their power, the world power that they were, crumbled. And it was all in connection to how they treated Israel. Where are the Babylonians? Where are the Greek Empire? Where are the Romans? Where are the Ottomans? No. And even today, where's the British Empire? No, it failed, and strategically, because their shift. They chose to attack the Jewish nation instead of stand with them. Now, America's at that same crossroads right now as a world superpower. Will we continue our historic support of Israel? We haven't been perfect, but historically we have stood with Israel at critical moments, including 1948 at the establishment of the new modern state of Israel, built on the biblical foundations. We supported it in 1967 with the war. There was support. With 1973 with the Yom Kippur War, support. Israel was supported by America in critical moments where Israel needed that support. Israel doesn't have to have that support, and that's a clear message that we're sending to you as the Israel guys right now is Israel doesn't have to have America. America needs Israel, and that is a crystal clear historic sign that we've seen from the foundations of the world. It's just the fabric of how things work, and we've got to recognize that as America. It's not about, in the end of the day, about America. It's about how America treats God's people. This is a God story, and we want to keep America in the favor of God, and we're going to pray that America makes the right decision at this incredibly important crossroads. Luke, I want to pull you in here from the studio on that side. Luke, we're going to leave here and everyone with some really strong action items. Luke, these guys got to call. They have got to call their senators, their congressmen, their local and state governments. This is something that everyone must take action now. This is your responsibility as an American. This is what makes America America. You can call your senators, your congressmen. Let them know that you love, you support Israel, and you're ashamed by the fact that the Israel summit was canceled, and this is not going to happen again in America. This is not the America that we accept to live in. We are proud supporters of the godly state of Israel that is fighting a war of survival right now in the Middle East, and we support them with everything we have, and we join them fully. And lastly, Luke, I want to get you to add to this. Stay connected to the work of the Israel guys in Hayuvel. We do say that these are strong action points. Put your feet on the ground here with our volunteer work, as well as stay connected to our Israel Guys network that is giving you live feeds from Israel. There's a lot of demonization and delegitimization coming out of the world against these people, the Jewish people in the land of Israel, and we're your boots on the ground connection to keep you connected to what's actually happening here. Luke, pull us in for our last lineup here.
That's right, Josh, and thank you so much for lots of comments in the chat of you being up 5 a.m. in Israel the next day. So thanks for sticking with us all the way from the land of Israel. Guys, you have your action items. You have your job description, whether it's praying, flying the Israel flag, donating financially, calling your senators and your congressmen, going to rallies, whether it's making sure that you are prepared to stand up for freedom and prepared to stand with the Jewish people in the nation of Israel, whether it's coming to the Israel summit, even if you're blind and you have to get on a train and spend several days making your way down to Texas, whether it's coming to the land of Israel yourself, we do encourage you, take action no matter where you are, no matter what your situation is, do something. The time has come to stand up. Okay, guys, wrapping up. Stay tuned for just 30 seconds more. I'm going to tell you about tomorrow's live stream, and you don't want to miss it because we have an amazing lineup. But before we do that, make sure you subscribe to the Israel Guys YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us on X, on Twitter, at the Israel Guys, and all the other social media channels. And most importantly, go to theisraelguys.com and sign up for our email list. And that way you will be the first to know when the Israel Summit is rescheduled with new dates in a new venue. God willing, it will happen, and it will happen soon, and we'll have double, triple, quadruple, 10 times the number of people that were originally scheduled to come to Dallas tonight for the Israel Summit. God willing, that will be coming very soon. And also, theisraelguys.com, you can donate. We're a 501c3. Get a tax deduction there, help us cover the costs that were lost with the Israel Summit being canceled. Okay, before we sign off, and I do want to thank everyone for being here from so many countries and states in the United States and all over the world. We had nearly 2,000 people watching. Appreciate everyone being here. Here's the lineup for tomorrow's live stream. It will be right here, same place, live on the Israel Guys YouTube channel. All you got to do is come to the Israel Guys on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central Time, Tuesday night. tonight. That is June 10th. June 10th, 7 p.m. Central Time, same time as tonight. Here's tomorrow's lineup. Ari Abramovitz will be back. He's not flying back to Israel yet. Jeremy has to go. He's heading home tomorrow, but Ari will be here again. Tommy Waller, founder of Hayuvel and the Israel Guys. Steve Warp from Blessed by Israel. Yishai Fleischer, who is scheduled to come to the Israel Summit. He is in America, and he will have a message for tomorrow's live stream. We've got member of Knesset Ohad Tal, all the way from Israel. We have Ayala Bar-On on the Hebron Regional Council in Israel. We got Ruti Man, an Israeli cowgirl and a ranch owner in Israel. All of these guys scheduled to come to the Israel Summit. And we also have a special message from Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. You know, guys, Arkansas has shown up. Senator Tom Cotton put out a message of public support. Sarah Huckabee Sanders has been amazing. Obviously, Mike Huckabee, ambassador to Israel, is also amazing. Comes from Arkansas. So way to go, Arkansas. Also, Arkansas passed amazing legislation in support of Judea and Samaria. And finally, we have Yonina back. Yoni was here tonight. He'll be back with his wife tomorrow night for a very special concert. You guys don't want to miss it. They're going to give you a little snippet of the concert that was going to be at the Israel Summit. They'll be playing music and singing. They are incredible. You don't want to miss it. So, guys, subscribe. All of this is free. It's public. We want as many people as watching as possible right here on the Israel Guys, June 10th, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. We'll see you then. Thank you so much to everyone for being here. We'll see you tomorrow night.